I opened the envelope at the kitchen table. Tuesday morning. Coffee steaming beside me. Richard had left for his walk 20 minutes ago. The letterhead said, Superior Court. I sat down. Petition for competency, evaluation, and emergency temporary guardianship. I read the title 3 times. My name was there. Barbara Ross, respondent. I kept reading. The petitioners, Michael Ross and Jennifer Ross Mitchell, request the court evaluate Barbara Ross for mental competency due to concerning behavior, including confusion, memory loss, erratic decision-making, and signs of cognitive decline. Petitioners further request emergency temporary guardianship to protect respondent and their father, Richard Ross, from potential harm. I set the papers down, looked out the window at the garden. My roses needed deadheading. I'd planned to do that this morning. I picked the papers up again. The details were there, typed, official. Michael and Jennifer both claimed I'd forgotten conversations, made the same purchases twice, not remembering the first time, asked repetitive questions, exhibited signs of dementia. I hadn't done any of those things. The petition went on. 4 pages. Medical history. They'd listed the anxiety medication I took after James died 3 years ago. Normal grief. My doctor said so. But here it was, twisted into evidence of mental instability. Financial concerns. They noted I'd married their father after knowing him only 18 months. As if falling in love at 68 required a decade-long courtship. Safety issues. I allegedly posed a danger to myself and their father. What danger? I drove safely, paid my bills, volunteered at the library. What exactly was dangerous about that? My hands shook as I turned to the last page. Their signatures. Michael Allen Ross, Jennifer Marie Ross Mitchell, both of them, Richard's children, my stepchildren. Below their signatures, a date, the hearing. 2 weeks from today. Emergency temporary guardianship hearing, Superior Court, Judge Patricia Martin presiding. They'd already scheduled it. Filed the petition, set the date, moved all the pieces into place while I thought we were family. I noticed something else. A lawyer's letter attached. Attorney for petitioners, David Brennan. He outlined the process. I had 48 hours to respond, to retain counsel, to file my own papers. 48 hours to prove I wasn't losing my mind. I stood up, walked to the counter. My coffee had gone cold. I poured it down the sink, rinsed the cup, put it in the dishwasher. Normal actions, competent actions. My marriage certificate was framed on the wall 6 months ago. Richard and I at the courthouse, smiling. Margaret had taken the photo. That was the day I thought I was starting fresh, starting over, building something good. Now his children were trying to have me committed. I picked up my phone, dialed the lawyer listed in the petition as my required notification contact. Voicemail, of course. It was 7 in the morning. I hung up, dialed my daughter Emily in Chicago. She answered on the second ring. Mom, you okay? I need you to listen, I said. I need you to listen and not interrupt, and then I need you to tell me what to do. My voice was steady. That surprised me. Inside, I was shaking, but my voice came out clear, calm, competent. Richard's children just filed a petition to have me declared mentally incompetent, I said. They want temporary guardianship. They claim I'm confused, forgetful, dangerous. The hearing is in 2 weeks. I have 48 hours to respond. Emily was silent for 3 seconds. Then, I'm booking a flight. Don't do anything until I get there. Do you understand? Nothing. I understand. Mom? Yes? You're not crazy. You know that, right? I know that, I said. But saying it and believing it suddenly felt like 2 different things. When someone files legal papers claiming you're mentally incompetent, proving you're sane becomes the hardest thing you've ever done, even to yourself. I hung up, looked at the papers spread across my kitchen table. 42 years I'd been married to James, raised 2 daughters, taught elementary school for 30 years. I'd nursed my husband through cancer, buried him, survived grief, found love again, and now I had to prove in court that I was capable of living my own life. The sun came through the window, my garden outside. The roses still needed deadheading. I'd get to them later. First, I had to figure out how to prove I wasn't crazy. I met Richard at a grief support group. 18 months after James died, I wasn't looking for anyone. Neither was Richard. His wife, Nancy, had died 4 years earlier. Cancer, like James. We sat next to each other by accident the first week, then the second week, same chairs. By the third week, it felt deliberate. We started getting coffee after the meetings, talked about normal things, books, gardens, the weather, anything but grief. 6 months later, he asked me to dinner. Not coffee, dinner. A year after that, he proposed. We got married at the courthouse. Small ceremony. My daughters were there. His children were civil. Margaret, my neighbor, took photos. I wore a blue dress. Richard wore his good suit. We went to an Italian restaurant after. It was simple, perfect. I thought I was building something good, a second chapter. James would have wanted that for me. I knew he would. I'd been financially stable when I met Richard. James's life insurance, $400,000. Our house paid off, now rented to a nice couple with 2 kids. My teacher's pension. I wasn't wealthy, but I was comfortable, secure. Richard had more, $1.2 million. His house, our house now. Retirement accounts, investments, Nancy's inheritance, which she'd left entirely to him. We'd signed a prenup. His lawyer insisted. Mine agreed it made sense. Keep our assets separate. Protect our children's inheritances. If something happened to one of us, the other got a life estate in the house, could live there until death. But ultimately, everything would go to our respective children. Fair, logical, professional. The estate attorney walked us through it. Combined, we agreed to update our wills. Everything to the surviving spouse first, then split 4 ways among all our children. My 2 daughters, Emily and Sarah, plus his 2, Michael and Jennifer. Equal shares. No one cut out, no one favored. I thought that would be enough. I thought fairness meant safety. Michael was 45, divorced. 2 kids in private school he could barely afford. He worked in commercial real estate, or had until the market crashed. Now he was scrambling. I'd seen the stress in his face at our wedding reception, the way he checked his phone constantly, the forced smile when Richard talked about our honeymoon plans. Jennifer was 43, married, 1 son, but her boy had special needs, severe autism, required expensive therapy. She loved that child fiercely. I respected that. But I could see the exhaustion, the weight of medical bills, the fear of not having enough. They both needed money. I understood that. I'd raised 2 daughters on a teacher's salary. I knew what financial stress felt like, but I had my own money. I wasn't taking theirs. Looking back now, I realized the warning signs were there from the beginning. At our engagement dinner, Jennifer had pulled Richard aside. I'd overheard part of it. "Dad, are you sure about this? You barely know her." Her voice sharp, concerned. Richard had laughed it off. "Jenny, I'm 70 years old. I know what I'm doing." But she hadn't looked convinced, and I'd felt it, that cold assessment. Like I was a problem to be solved. Not a person, not someone who made her father happy, just an obstacle. I dismissed it. Protective daughter. Of course she'd be cautious. Nancy had only been gone 4 years. I was the outsider. I needed to be patient. The second warning came during the prenup process. Michael had insisted we use his family attorney. The meeting was uncomfortable. The lawyer asked invasive questions. Had I ever been diagnosed with depression, anxiety? Had I taken any psychiatric medications? I'd answered honestly, yes, anxiety medication after James died, standard grief response. My doctor prescribed it. I took it for 6 months, then stopped when I felt better. The lawyer wrote everything down, made notes, asked if I'd considered the age difference. Richard was 2 years older than me, hardly a gap worth mentioning. But the way the lawyer phrased it, given Mr. Ross's age and your recent mental health history, I'd felt uncomfortable. Richard had squeezed my hand under the table. "We're done here," he'd said. We signed the papers and left. I should have paid attention to that discomfort, that feeling of being assessed, cataloged, measured for weakness. But I wanted to be liked. I wanted to fit into Richard's family. So I ignored what I was seeing. You live and learn, I suppose. My neighbor Margaret saw it, though. She'd come over the day after the wedding with a casserole. Tuna noodle. She'd stood in my kitchen, Richard's kitchen, our kitchen, and looked around. "Those kids of his seem territorial," she'd said, blunt as always. "They're protective," I'd replied. "Nancy was their mother." Margaret had set the casserole on the counter. "Just be careful, Barbara. Protective is one thing. Possessive is another." I'd laughed it off then. Margaret was cynical about family. She had her reasons. Her own son had tried to put her in a nursing home 5 years ago, wanted her house. She'd fought back, gone no contact. She saw worst-case scenarios everywhere. But maybe that's because worst-case scenarios happened more often than I wanted to believe. Margaret had become a good friend. 72, widowed like me, sharp as a tack. We did book club together Thursday nights, mystery novels mostly. She brought the best snacks, had opinions about everything, watched the neighborhood like a hawk. I trusted her, even when I didn't want to hear what she was saying. The first few months of marriage were good. Richard and I fell into a rhythm. Coffee together every morning. He'd do the crossword. I'd read the local section, ordinary domestic life. It was exactly what I'd wanted. But Michael and Jennifer stayed distant. Phone calls were brief, visits rare. When they did come over, conversations felt stiff, formal, like I was a stranger in what used to be their family home. At Christmas, 4 months into the marriage, we'd gone to Michael's house for dinner. Jennifer's family was there too. Her son Tyler was sweet, 10 years old, nonverbal, but he'd smiled when I'd brought him a puzzle. Jennifer had watched me with that same assessing look, like she was waiting for me to do something wrong. During dinner, Tyler had come over to me, given me a hug, unexpected, spontaneous. I'd hugged him back. Jennifer had stood up immediately, called him back to her side. "Tyler, come here. Leave Barbara alone." Michael had pulled his daughter, Sarah, I think, away from me when she'd tried to show me her art project. "Don't bother Barbara," he'd said, voice cold. I'd felt it then, that wall, that barrier they'd built. I wasn't family, I was tolerated, barely. Richard had noticed. On the drive home, he'd been quiet. Finally, "They'll come around. They just need time." I'd wanted to believe him, but the look on Jennifer's face when Tyler hugged me, that wasn't about needing time. That was about territory, about possession. That was about not wanting me there at all. One night, about 5 months in, I'd been unpacking the last of my boxes, found an old photo album, James and me on our honeymoon, our daughters as babies, 42 years of life. I'd been sitting on the bedroom floor crying quietly when Richard came in. "Hey," he'd sat down beside me, looked at the photos. He was a lucky man. "I miss him," I'd said. "That doesn't mean I don't love you, it just means I know." Richard had taken my hand. "Nancy would want me to be happy. I think James would want the same for you. You're not replacing anyone, Barbara. You're my second chance. I'm yours. That's allowed." He'd kissed my forehead. We'd sat there together, photos spread around us, past and present, both real, both allowed. I'd thought, this is worth fighting for, this quiet happiness, this second chance. I just didn't know yet how hard the fight would be, or that the fight would come from the people who were supposed to be family. We'd been married 6 months and 3 days when those papers arrived. After Emily hung up, "I'm booking the next flight, Mom." I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The petition papers were still spread out. Legal language, court dates, claims about my mental state. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I called our estate attorney, Martin Hayes. He'd handled the prenup, the will updates, everything. His office opened at 9. I waited until 9:02, then dialed. His assistant put me through. "Barbara, good morning. What can I do for you?" I explained about the petition. My voice stayed level, factual. He was quiet while I talked. When I finished, he said, "I'm sorry this is happening. For what it's worth, I can provide documentation that you were completely coherent and competent during all our meetings. Your instructions were clear. You understood everything." "Thank you." I paused. "Martin, has anyone else contacted you about Richard's estate recently?" Silence on the other end. Then, "I can't discuss other clients' inquiries without permission. I'm asking about my husband's estate, which affects me." Another pause. "Michael called 3 weeks ago. He wanted to discuss changing Richard's will without you present. I told him that wouldn't be appropriate. Any changes to a married person's estate plan require both spouses to be involved, or at minimum, aware." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" "He said you'd been confusing Richard, making him forget things. He was concerned about undue influence." Martin's voice was careful, professional. I told him I'd seen no evidence of that. "Barbara, you should know. That call made me uncomfortable. It felt like he was fishing, testing to see if I'd go around you." "Thank you for telling me." "Document everything," he said. "Every interaction with them. Dates, times, what was said. You're going to need it." I hung up, stared at the phone. 3 weeks ago, before they filed the petition, they'd been laying groundwork, testing who would cooperate. Richard's computer was in the study. He used it for emails, online banking, the crossword puzzle app he loved. We didn't share passwords. We weren't that kind of couple, but he sometimes left it logged in. I walked to the study. The computer was on, email open. I know I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But someone was trying to have me declared mentally incompetent. Privacy felt like a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. I scrolled through his inbox. Nothing obvious. Then I checked his sent folder. Deleted items. There. A folder I didn't recognize. Family. I opened it. Emails between Richard and Michael. Richard and Jennifer. But also, and this made my hands shake, emails between Michael and Jennifer. Forwarded to Richard. He'd seen them, read them, saved them. I clicked on the oldest one, 4 months ago, from Michael to Jennifer. "We need to talk about Dad and Barbara, I'm worried." Jennifer's response, "Me too. He's not thinking clearly. She's got him convinced she's some perfect second chance." Michael, "I talked to a lawyer. If we can show she's manipulating him, or if he's not competent to make decisions." Jennifer, "Dad's competent. It's her we need to worry about." Michael, "Exactly. That's the angle. She's the problem. We prove she's unstable. We can get temporary guardianship, protect his assets while she's evaluated." I stopped reading, felt sick. They'd been planning this for 4 months. I scrolled further, more emails, different thread, just Michael and Jennifer now. Jennifer, "I found a psychiatrist who works with elder abuse cases, Dr. Morrison. He said if we document concerning behaviors, he can evaluate the situation." Michael, "We need to document everything, every time she forgets something, every weird comment, build a pattern." Jennifer, "What if she doesn't actually forget things? What if she's fine?" Michael, "Then we make it look like she does. Ask her the same question multiple times. Tell Dad she already answered. Make her doubt herself. Gaslighting isn't illegal if it's for someone's own protection." I closed the laptop, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water. My hands were shaking so badly I spilled some. They hadn't been concerned about me. They'd been building a case, manufacturing evidence. The phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but it was a local number. "Barbara? It's Jennifer." I took a breath. "Hi, Jennifer." "Hey, I wanted to check on you. Dad told me you've seemed a little off lately. I'm worried." Off. Worried. The same words from the petition. "I'm fine," I said. "Are you sure? Because Dad mentioned you got confused at the grocery store last week, forgot where you parked. Security had to help you find your car." I hadn't been to that grocery store in 3 weeks, and I'd never forgotten where I parked. That didn't happen, Jennifer. Oh. Her voice shifted, concerned to something else. That's concerning, Barbara, that you don't remember. I remember perfectly well. I haven't been to that store, and I've never needed security to help me find my car. Dad said, Richard never said that, because it never happened. Silence. Then, maybe you should talk to someone, Barbara, a professional. This kind of memory loss. There's no memory loss. My voice was sharper now. There's nothing to remember because it never happened. Okay, Jennifer said, slowly, like she was humoring me. If you say so, I just hope you're taking care of yourself. We care about you. She hung up. I stood in the kitchen. That's when I understood. They were calling to create more evidence. Documented phone calls where Barbara denied things, got defensive, showed signs of confusion. Everything was being used against me. Richard came home from his walk 20 minutes later. He looked happy, relaxed, didn't know what I'd found yet. Did I tell you you got confused at the grocery store last week? I asked. He looked puzzled. What? No. Why would I say that? Jennifer just called. She said you told her I forgot where I parked. Security helped me find my car. That never happened. He set his keys down. Barbara, what's going on? I handed him the petition papers, watched his face change as he read. What is this? Your children filed that yesterday. They want me evaluated for mental competency, emergency guardianship. The hearing's in 2 weeks. He sat down heavily, read it again. This can't be. They wouldn't. I found emails on your computer, between them. They've been planning this for 4 months. His face went white. Show me. I showed him, watched him read his children's words, the calculation, the strategy, the willingness to lie. I don't understand, he said. Finally, voice hollow. Why would they do this? Money, I said, quietly. If I'm gone, they inherit more. Sooner. They're not like that. They're exactly like that. Richard, Jennifer just called me, tried to gaslight me about a grocery store incident that never happened, asked me about things you supposedly told her, things you never said. They're creating a record, building evidence. He put his head in his hands. I can't believe they'd. But he did believe it. I could see it. The realization settling over him. His children, his family, doing this to his wife. To him. What do we do? He asked. I already called Emily. She's flying in tomorrow, and I'm going to see my doctor this afternoon. Get evaluated, document that I'm competent, because apparently I have to prove I'm not crazy to people who are actively trying to make me doubt my own mind. That evening, I went to my doctor's office. Dr. Chen had been my physician for 15 years. He'd treated James through his cancer, helped me through my grief. Barbara, what's this about? He asked after I'd explained. I need documentation that I'm mentally competent. Cognitive function, mental health status, everything you can give me. He looked at me carefully. Has something happened? My husband's children are trying to have me declared incompetent. I need proof that I'm not. He was quiet for a moment, then, let's do a full cognitive assessment, mini mental state exam. We'll document everything. 20 minutes later, he handed me the results. 29 out of 30. That's excellent for any age. Your cognitive function is completely normal. Above average, actually. Can you write that down, officially? I'll draft a letter today. You'll have it tomorrow. He paused. Barbara, are you safe? Is anyone pressuring you? Threatening you? Not yet, I said, but I'm being careful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark kitchen at 11. The house was quiet. Richard was asleep upstairs. He'd been quiet all evening, devastated by what his children had done. I thought about Michael and Jennifer, their desperation, their willingness to destroy me to get what they needed. I thought about the hearing. 2 weeks away, standing in front of a judge, proving I was sane. How do you prove you negative? How do you prove you're not confused when they're manufacturing evidence that you are? The clock on the wall ticked. Each click felt like a countdown. My neighbor Margaret's words echoed, "Protective is one thing, possessive is another." She'd been right. This wasn't protection. This was possession. They didn't care about Richard's well-being. They cared about control. And I was in the way. I'd spent 6 months trying to be liked, trying to fit in, ignoring warning signs because I wanted to be part of Richard's family. That was over now. Now I had to fight, not to be liked, not to fit in, but to keep my freedom. Because if they won, if the judge believed them, I'd lose everything, my autonomy, my rights, my ability to make my own decisions. They'd control my finances, my medical care, my life, all because I dared to marry a man with money and grown children who wanted it more than they wanted their father to be happy. I sat in the dark kitchen, looking at those emails I'd printed out, evidence of their planning, their strategy, their willingness to lie. That's when I realized Richard didn't know what his children were doing. They'd been lying to both of us, manipulating both of us. The emails proved it. The question was, when I showed him, whose side would he choose? His children or me? I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer, but I was going to find out. Emily landed at noon the next day. I picked her up from the airport. She looked like she'd dressed for court. Sharp blazer, laptop bag, determined expression. My younger daughter, the attorney. "Show me everything," she said in the car. At home, I spread it all out on the dining room table. The petition, the emails I'd printed, Dr. Chen's letter, the prenup, estate documents, everything. Emily read in silence, took notes. Her jaw got tighter with every page. When she finished, she looked up. "Mom, this is textbook financial elder abuse. They're using the legal system as a weapon." "I know. No, I mean, this is a crime in some jurisdictions. What they're doing, the fabricated evidence, the gaslighting, the premeditation." She tapped the emails. "These are smoking gun. They document intent, motive, strategy." "Will a judge see it that way?" "We'll make sure they do." She pulled out her laptop. "But we need more. We need to build a case that's so airtight they can't twist it. Medical evaluations, financial records, character witnesses, everything." That's when I showed her the rest, the full email thread, not just the excerpts I'd printed. Emily had helped me access Richard's cloud backup remotely. Every email, every deleted message, 4 months of planning laid bare. We sat at the kitchen table at 2 a.m, both of us on laptops. Richard had gone to bed hours ago, devastated and quiet. Emily and I worked in the glow of computer screens. She pulled up the thread, started reading aloud. "Michael to Jennifer, 3 months ago. I talked to Morrison. He says we need documented incidents, times she forgot things, made poor decisions, showed confusion. He can't evaluate her without evidence of decline." Jennifer's response: "What if there aren't any incidents? What if she's actually fine?" "Michael, then we create them. Document every time we ask her a question twice. Make her doubt herself. Morrison said memory issues are subjective. It's her word against ours." Emily scrolled further. Her voice got quieter, angrier. "Jennifer, I don't know if I can do this. It feels wrong." "Michael, she's taking Dad's money, our inheritance, Mom's money. You think that's not wrong? Your son needs that money for his therapy. My kids need their college funds. We're not stealing. We're protecting what's ours." "Jennifer, okay. What do we do?" "Michael, we make a timeline, document everything, build a pattern. Then we file. Emergency guardianship, that's key. If we can get temporary control while she's being evaluated, we can make sure Dad's protected. And if the evaluation takes long enough..." Emily stopped reading, looked at me. "They were planning to drag out the evaluation, keep you under guardianship as long as possible, control Dad's finances during that time." I know. She kept scrolling. Found another exchange. Michael, I hired a PI, following her for 2 weeks. If she does anything odd, anything we can photograph, we'll have it. Jennifer, you hired a private investigator? Isn't that expensive? Michael, cheaper than losing our inheritance. He's good. She won't even know he's there. I felt sick. Every grocery trip, every coffee with Margaret, every garden moment, someone had been watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. There's more, Emily said. She'd found a final email, sent 3 days before they filed. Michael, Morrison agreed to testify. He'll say the pattern of behavior is consistent with early dementia. He hasn't met her, but he doesn't need to. Our documentation is enough for a preliminary opinion. Jennifer, what if she gets her own doctor? Michael, doesn't matter. Competing opinions mean uncertainty. Uncertainty means emergency guardianship stays in place until it's resolved. That's all we need. Emily closed the laptop. We sat in the dark kitchen. The clock ticked on the wall. They knew she wasn't sick, Emily said, quietly. They knew, and they did it anyway. I sat there in the dark reading my stepchildren's plan to have me locked up. Not because I was sick, not because I was dangerous, because I was in the way, because I stood between them and their father's money. I thought about James, about our 42 years together. He never would have believed this could happen to me. I almost didn't believe it myself, but the emails were right there, black and white, undeniable. They didn't question my mind because they thought I was confused. They questioned it because they knew I wasn't. A confused person couldn't fight back. A competent person could. And that made me dangerous to their plan. So they tried to make me doubt myself, make everyone doubt me, until no one, not even me, was sure what was real anymore. That's what gaslighting was. Not just lying, but making your victim doubt their own perception of reality. I realized something sitting there. They'd almost succeeded. When Jennifer called about the grocery store incident, I'd felt it, that flicker of doubt. Did I forget? Am I losing track? That's what they wanted, that uncertainty, that fear. Not anymore. The next morning, Emily and I organized everything, created evidence folders, methodical, labeled, the emails, text messages we'd pulled from cloud backups, and something else. Emily had found it buried in Michael's sent folder, accidentally copied to Richard months ago. A recorded phone call. Michael to Richard's financial advisor, Tom Chen. Michael asking about beneficiary changes on Richard's accounts. Tom refusing to discuss client information. Michael getting frustrated. What if Dad's not competent to make those decisions? Tom firm. Your father is perfectly competent, Mr. Ross. Michael. Not for long. Not for long. Emily saved it. Documented the timestamp. Attached the metadata. I pulled everything. My bank statements going back 5 years, investment accounts, property deed for my rental house, credit report showing perfect score, tax returns, $400,000 in assets I'd brought to the marriage, my own money, James's life insurance, the house we'd paid off together, my teacher's pension. Then I documented theirs. Emily helped. Public records. Michael's foreclosure notices. He was 3 months behind. Court documents from his divorce showing asset division. Collection agency letters attached to emails he'd sent Richard asking for loans. Jennifer's medical bills, $85,000 outstanding for Tyler's therapy. Credit card debt. Her husband's travel schedule showing he was gone 3 weeks a month. She was drowning. I understood that. But understanding didn't mean accepting what they were trying to do. Dr. Chen had sent his letter overnight, 2 pages, detailed. He'd been my physician for 15 years, documented my medical history, recent cognitive assessment, mental health status. Ms. Ross demonstrates excellent cognitive function for her age. Mini mental state examination score, 2930. No signs of dementia, confusion, or cognitive impairment. Her medical history shows no psychiatric conditions. Anxiety medication prescribed post-bereavement was appropriate and time-limited. Ms. Ross is fully competent to make her own decisions. But we needed more. Emily found a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Sarah Williams, specialist in elder abuse cases. She agreed to evaluate me independently. The evaluation took 4 hours. Psychological testing, cognitive assessments, clinical interview. Dr. Williams was thorough, kind. She listened when I described the gaslighting, the manufactured incidents, the emails. A week later, her report arrived. 6 pages. Barbara Ross presents as a cognitively intact, psychologically stable individual with full decision-making capacity. Testing reveals above-average cognitive function for her age group. No evidence of mental illness, personality disorder, or cognitive impairment. Notably, Ms. Ross describes a pattern of psychological manipulation consistent with organized gaslighting. Her responses suggest she is the victim of elder abuse, not its perpetrator. In my professional opinion, Ms. Ross has full mental capacity and competence. We had it. Medical proof. Not from one doctor, but 2. Independent evaluations. Documentary proof and legal records. Margaret had written a statement. 2 pages describing what she'd observed. The cold reception at the wedding. Jennifer pulling Tyler away from me. Michael's territorial behavior. She'd seen it all. My book club friends wrote letters. 6 women, all confirming I participated actively, read complex novels, led discussions. No confusion, no memory problems. The library volunteer coordinator wrote. The retirement community activities coordinator where I'd helped organize events. My property deed. The rental house I managed successfully. Prenup documentation showing I'd understood everything. Estate planning documents with the attorney's notes. Client Barbara Ross was clear, coherent, and specific about her wishes. Tax returns, investment statements, everything showing a pattern of competent financial management. Emily organized it all, created binders, documented sources, cross-referenced everything. That's when I knew I needed a lawyer, not just Emily's help, though that was invaluable, but someone who specialized in this. Elder law, competency cases. Emily found her. Patricia Santos, 55, former prosecutor turned elder law attorney. Her website showed her credentials, but more importantly, her bio mentioned her grandmother, exploited by family members years ago. Patricia had made elder abuse cases her mission. We met at her office Tuesday afternoon. Small conference room, glass walls, whiteboard covered in case notes from other clients. Patricia read everything, took her time. When she finished, she looked up. This is one of the clearest cases of financial elder abuse I've seen. Her voice was firm, controlled. They documented their own conspiracy. The emails alone are devastating for them. Can we win? I asked. We're not just going to win. We're going to bury them. She pulled out a legal pad, started writing. Here's what we do. We file a counter petition, request the court dismiss their petition as frivolous and malicious. We subpoena their financial records, show motive. We depose them, make them lie under oath or admit the truth. We present your medical evaluations, character witnesses, financial competence. And Dr. Morrison, their psychiatrist, he's testifying based on hearsay, never met you. Cross-examination will destroy his credibility. Patricia smiled, shark-like. I've dealt with hired experts before. She explained her fee structure, reasonable, fair. I signed the retainer agreement right there. One more thing, Patricia said as we stood to leave. My grandmother went through something similar. Her son tried to have her declared incompetent, wanted her house. She fought back, won, but it destroyed her relationship with him forever. She paused. I need you to understand. Winning this case might mean losing Richard's children. There might not be reconciliation after this. I know, I said, but if I don't fight, I lose myself, my freedom, my life. Then we fight. I spent that evening organizing evidence at the dining room table. Manila folders, label maker, everything categorized, bank records, emails, medical evaluations, letters of support. The label maker clicked as I worked. Each label: Evidence Type 1, Digital, Evidence. Type 2, Financial. The clicking sound was satisfying, methodical. If I could organize the evidence, maybe I could organize the fear. Richard came downstairs, stood in the doorway watching me. "I talked to Michael today," he said quietly. I looked up. I told him I'd seen the emails, that I knew what they were doing. His voice broke. He said I was being manipulated, that you'd poisoned me against my own children. Richard, I told him I was choosing you, that if they went through with this, they'd lose me. He sat down heavily. Jennifer called after, crying, said she was scared for me, that I wasn't thinking clearly. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. He was losing his children because they'd decided I was worth less than their inheritance. "Don't be." He reached across the table, took my hand. "You're my wife, my partner. They made their choice when they filed those papers. I'm making mine now." Later that night, I sat alone in the kitchen, 2 a.m. again, couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, evidence folders stacked neatly on the table. I thought about the hearing. 11 days away now, standing in front of Judge Martin, presenting evidence, proving I was sane. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Anger, cold, measured, righteous. They'd tried to take everything from me, my autonomy, my marriage, my sanity. They'd manufactured evidence, gaslighted me, followed me, lied about me. All for money they weren't even entitled to yet. Money that was Richard's, not theirs. Patricia had asked me in her office, "Do you want to just defend yourself or do you want to go on offense?" What's the difference? Defense: we prove you're competent and get the petition dismissed. Offense: we expose their financial motive, subpoena their records, make it clear this was attempted financial exploitation, possibly refer them for prosecution. I'd thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Offense, I'd said. I want to make sure they can't do this to anyone else. Not Richard, not some other woman who marries a man with money and grown children. Patricia had smiled. Good, then let's make them regret this. I looked at the evidence folders, all that proof, all that documentation, their emails, their plan, their lies. They'd tried to make me doubt my own mind, but my mind was fine, sharp, clear, angry, and I was ready to prove it. The hearing was 9 days away. I woke at 5:30, couldn't sleep, went down to the garden before sunrise. The roses needed work, deadheading, pruning. I'd been neglecting them, too focused on legal papers and evidence folders. But the garden didn't care about court dates. The roses grew or they didn't. You tended them or you lost them. I worked slowly in the cool morning air, methodical. Clip the spent blooms. Check for disease. Pull the weeds. The repetition calmed something in me. By the time the sun came up fully, I'd cleared 2 beds. And I'd realized something. This was never about my sanity. It was never about whether I was confused or competent. That was just the tool they'd chosen, the legal mechanism. This was about money, control, power, about 2 middle-aged people who looked at their father's happiness and saw only their own financial loss. I thought about the past 6 months, how hard I'd tried, how much I'd wanted to be liked, to fit in, to be the perfect stepmother who didn't threaten anyone. I'd ignored red flags, dismissed my own instincts, made myself small and accommodating because conflict felt worse than discomfort. That wasn't strength, but it wasn't exactly weakness either. It was kindness, and they'd mistaken it for something they could exploit. I sat back on my heels, dirt under my fingernails, morning sun warming my face. Thought about 2 moments, then and now. Then, Christmas, 3 years ago. The last one with James. He'd been sick, but determined. The tree was up. Our daughters came home. Sarah brought her husband and kids. Emily flew in from Chicago. James had sat in his chair by the fireplace, grandchildren on his lap telling stories. He'd looked at me across the room and smiled, just smiled. 42 years of marriage in that smile. We'd built something solid, something good, a family that loved each other without conditions or calculations. When he died 4 months later, I'd thought that kind of family was over for me, that I'd had my chance, and it was done. Now, last Sunday, breakfast with Richard, coffee and newspapers. He'd reached across the table to show me a crossword clue. His hand had brushed mine. Such a small gesture. Easy, comfortable. Michael had called in the middle of breakfast. Richard had let it go to voicemail. "I'm having breakfast with my wife," he'd said to the phone. Then to me, "More coffee?" I'd said yes. We'd kept reading, just a Sunday morning. Normal, quiet. That was family too. Different from what I'd had with James. Smaller, quieter, but real. Worth protecting. And they were trying to take it from me. Not for any good reason. Not because I was hurting Richard. Not because I was taking advantage. Because my existence inconvenienced their plans. I went inside, made coffee. It was 6:30 now. Richard still asleep. The house quiet. I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd discovered the petition 8 days ago. Where Emily and I had worked through the night. Organizing evidence, where I'd felt the fear first take hold. But this morning, I felt something different. Clarity. They could question my mind all they wanted. They could manufacture evidence, hire psychiatrists, file legal papers. They could follow me with private investigators and twist every normal moment into a symptom. But they couldn't take the truth. I knew who I was. I knew what I'd lived. 42 years with James, 2 daughters raised, 30 years teaching children to read, 3 years of grief survived, love found again at 68, 6 months of marriage to a good man who chose me every day. That was my life, my truth, mine. I looked at the evidence folders stacked neatly by the door, ready for Patricia's office, ready for court, documents and medical evaluations and witness statements. All that proof. But the real proof wasn't in the folders. It was in me. In knowing, completely, without doubt, that I was exactly who I'd always been. Capable, clear-minded, stronger than they'd realized. I sat there quietly looking at 42 years of memories they'd tried to weaponize against me. The photos, the grief. My whole life spread across their legal papers like evidence of decline. And I realized they could question my mind, but they couldn't take my truth. That was mine. The phone rang. Patricia. 7 a.m. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. "I need you in my office this morning. Can you come at 9? "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but we need to talk strategy. They filed a supplemental petition yesterday. More evidence. Ring camera footage from Michael's house. Edited, of course. Makes it look like you showed up unannounced, confused. Richard sent me there with a dish his son had left at our house. I was there 5 minutes. I know, we'll prove that. But here's what I want to discuss. Defensive strategy versus offensive." She paused. "You still want to go on offense?" "Yes." "Then we need to make some decisions. 9 o'clock. I was at her office at 8:50. Patricia's conference room, whiteboard, case files, coffee in a mug that said, "Nevertheless, she persisted." "Sit," Patricia said. She pulled up a file. "Michael and Jennifer are desperate. The supplemental petition shows it. They're scrambling. But desperate people are dangerous. They'll keep filing, keep creating incidents, keep twisting reality until the hearing. So what do? We subpoena their financial records, force them to produce every bank statement, credit card bill, loan document. We depose them, put them under oath, make them explain their debts while claiming this is about your welfare, not their inheritance." She pulled up a document. "We also subpoena Dr. Morrison, their hired expert. Make him admit under oath he's never met you, never evaluated you, that his opinion is based entirely on hearsay from people with financial motivation to lie. Will it work? It'll destroy their credibility. But Barbara," she leaned forward, "this gets ugly. Really ugly. You'll be sitting in that deposition room watching Jennifer cry, watching Michael get angry, hearing them defend lies under oath. It's going to hurt, and Richard will be caught in the middle. I thought about Richard, devastated already, watching his children do this, choosing between them and me every single day. But I thought about something else too, the emails, the planning, the private investigator, the willingness to have me declared incompetent, to take my freedom, my rights, my life, because I was in their way. If we don't go on offense, I said, what happens? We defend, we win, they walk away. And next year, or in 5 years, when Richard's health declines or he dies, they do this to someone else, another woman, maybe someone who doesn't have the resources to fight back. Patricia nodded slowly. That's what happened to my grandmother. The family member who tried to exploit her, he moved on to an aunt, then a neighbor. Predators don't stop unless you force them to. Then we force them. Patricia smiled, not warm, satisfied. Okay, then here's what we do. She outlined the strategy. Subpoenas by end of week, depositions scheduled, discovery motions filed, every financial document they'd hidden, exposed, every lie they'd told, documented. By the time we walk into that courtroom, Patricia said, the judge will see this case for what it really is, not a concerned family protecting an aging parent, a calculated attempt at financial elder abuse. I left her office at 11. Felt different, focused, clear. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. It was about making sure they couldn't do this to anyone else. Not Richard later, not some other widow who remarried and became inconvenient. I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, eager to please, afraid of conflict, wanting so badly to be liked by Richard's children that I'd ignored every warning sign. That woman would have settled, would have signed away her rights to keep the peace, would have made herself smaller to avoid the fight. But I wasn't that woman anymore. They'd changed me, forced me to become someone who could stand in a courtroom and fight for her own freedom. Someone who could look at evidence of betrayal and not collapse. Someone who could say enough and mean it. I drove home. Richard was in the kitchen. He looked up when I came in. How was Patricia? Good. We're going on offense, subpoenaing Michael and Jennifer's financial records, deposing them, forcing them to explain their debts while claiming this is about protecting you. He nodded. Quiet. Then, they called this morning, both of them. Said I was being manipulated, that you'd turn me against my own children. He looked at me. I told them they did that themselves when they filed those papers. I sat down beside him, took his hand. I'm sorry, I said. I know this isn't what you wanted. No, he agreed, but it's what we have. And I choose you. Every time. They made this choice, not us. That evening, I organized the evidence one more time. Kitchen table, everything laid out, digital evidence, financial records, medical evaluations, witness statements, property documents, but also, and I did this deliberately, I set out other things, photos. The wedding photo of Richard and me. Margaret had taken it. We looked happy, hopeful. A photo of James from our 40th anniversary, 2 years before he died, his arm around me, both of us smiling. 2 marriages, 2 loves, both real, both mine. Michael and Jennifer had tried to use James against me, claimed I was confused about the past, dwelling on a dead husband, unable to move forward. But moving forward didn't mean forgetting. It meant carrying the past with you, the good parts, the love, the 42 years, and building something new alongside it. I could love James and love Richard. I could grieve one and marry another. I could honor my history and create a new chapter. That wasn't confusion. That was life. Complex, layered, rich with different kinds of love. The photos sat there on the table, evidence folders beside them, past and present, all of it mine, all of it real. The hearing was 8 days away. I was ready. 6 days before the hearing, Richard's phone rang at breakfast. "Jennifer," he answered, put it on speaker. "Dad, the kids want to see you." Her voice was careful, controlled. "Tyler's been asking about Grandpa, Emma too, but I can't let them be around Barbara, not until this is resolved." Richard's hand tightened on his coffee cup. "You're using my grandchildren as leverage." "I'm protecting them. If the court finds Barbara incompetent, if she's dangerous—" "She's not dangerous. She's my wife, and you know she's not incompetent. You wrote that in your emails, Jennifer. What if she's actually fine?" Silence. Then, I was confused then. Michael helped me see. "Michael wants Dad's money," I said. Quiet. "You want it for Tyler's therapy. I understand that. But I'm not taking anything that belongs to you, and I'm not dangerous." "I need to go," Jennifer said. Click. Richard sat there staring at his phone. His grandchildren. Tyler, who'd hugged me at Christmas. Emma, who'd shown me her art. Kids he'd seen every week before the wedding. Now, nothing, because I existed. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't." His voice was rough. "They made this choice, not you." But I saw the cost in his face. Winning this case meant he might lose them, maybe forever. That afternoon, Sarah pulled into the driveway, my older daughter. She'd driven 3 hours from the city, got out of the car with a casserole dish and a tight hug. "Mom, where do you need me?" By evening, both my daughters were there. Emily from Chicago, Sarah from the city. They sat at the kitchen table with me and Richard going through evidence one more time. "Their case is weak," Emily said. She'd been reviewing Patricia's notes. "Manufactured evidence, hearsay, financial motive. Any reasonable judge will see through it." "But what if the judge isn't reasonable?" Sarah asked. "Practical. Always asking the hard questions." "Then we appeal," Emily said, "and we win on appeal. Mom's not losing this." I watched my daughters, fierce, protective, ready to fight. The contrast wasn't lost on me. My children showed up to help. Richard's children showed up with legal papers. What made the difference? I'd wondered that for 6 months. Why my daughters trusted my judgment and his children didn't. Maybe because I'd raised them to be independent, to make their own decisions, to question authority, even mine, and they'd learned I could handle being questioned, being challenged, being wrong sometimes. Richard's children had been raised differently. Nancy had been traditional, protective, the kind of mother who made decisions for her kids well into adulthood. When she died, they'd expected Richard to continue that, to need them, to depend on them. Instead, he'd found me, an independent woman who didn't need managing, who had her own money, her own life, her own opinions. That had threatened everything they thought they knew about family. The next morning, Patricia called. Michael's attorney reached out. They want to settle. Settle how? Drop the competency petition. In exchange, you sign away any claim to Richard's estate. Pre-death agreement. If Richard dies, everything goes to his children. You get nothing. I was quiet for a moment. Then, that proves what this was always about. Not my competency, my inheritance. Exactly. Do you want me to reject it? Yes, reject it. And make sure it's on the record. They just admitted this was financial. Patricia's voice was satisfied. I'll draft the response. This actually helps us. That evening, Margaret came over, my neighbor, my book club friend. She'd brought soup, of course she had, and sat at the kitchen table with blunt observations. I saw Michael's car driving past your house yesterday, twice, slow, like he was watching. He hired a PI, I said. 2 weeks of surveillance. We found it in the emails. Creepy bastard. Margaret stirred her tea, sharp eyes on me. How you holding up? I'm okay. No, you're not. You're terrified. But you're doing it anyway. That's called courage, Barbara. Not happiness. Courage. She was right. I wasn't happy. I was scared, exhausted, angry, but I was still standing, still fighting. That had to count for something. Thursday night, 4 days before the hearing, was book club. I almost didn't go, but Margaret insisted. "You need normal," she said. 2 hours of normal, trust me. So I went. 6 women in Margaret's living room, coffee and cookies, mystery novels and gossip. For 2 hours, no one mentioned the case. No one asked how I was doing. We just talked about whether the detective in the book was competent or an idiot. It was exactly what I needed. As we were leaving, Margaret's friend Carol pulled me aside, 70, widowed, sharp. "My cousin went through something similar," she said, quiet. Her stepson tried to have her declared incompetent, said she was giving away money to scammers. She wasn't. She was donating to legitimate charities. He just wanted to control her spending. What happened? She fought. Won. He never spoke to her again. Carol squeezed my arm. "You're doing the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." 3 days before the hearing, Patricia called with bad news. Michael filed another supplemental petition. More evidence. What now? Security footage from a coffee shop. You allegedly had a loud argument with a barista, acted confused about your order, left without paying. I searched my memory. Coffee shop. 2 weeks ago. I'd gone with Margaret, ordered lattes, paid, left. No argument. No confusion. That didn't happen. I know, I already got the actual footage from the shop. You were calm, polite, paid correctly. Their evidence is fabricated, or they're describing someone else entirely and claiming it was you. Can they just lie like this? Technically, it's not lying if they say, "We received reports without verifying," but it shows desperation. They're throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks. That night, Jennifer called my phone. Not Richard's, mine. "Barbara? It's Jennifer." I was surprised. "Hi? I wanted to talk to you, alone." Her voice was soft, apologetic. I think maybe I've been wrong about you, about all of this." I said nothing, waited. "Michael's been pushing so hard, the emails, the lawyers, all of it. He convinced me you were dangerous, that we needed to protect Dad. But the more I think about it, the more I wonder if he's just worried about the money." "Jennifer, let me finish." She was crying now. "I've seen how Dad looks at you. He's happy, really happy, and I took that from him, from both of you. I'm so sorry." My guard went up. This felt off, rehearsed. "What do you want, Jennifer?" "I want to drop the petition, call off the hearing, let you and Dad be happy, but I can't do it without Michael's agreement, and he won't listen to me. He might listen to you." "Why would he listen to me?" "If you agreed to sign something about the estate, just protection, so he knows you're not after the money, then maybe he'd drop it. We could all just move on." There it was. The ask, the angle. "Jennifer, the hearing is in 3 days. You think I should sign away my rights so Michael drops a case you both filed? I just thought, maybe if there was a way to resolve this without court." "There is. You and Michael withdraw the petition. Admit you were wrong. Apologize. We move on from there." Silence. Then her voice changed, harder. "You're not going to make this easy, are you?" "No, I'm not." She hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, shaking. That whole conversation, the apology, the tears, the offer, it had been a script, a tactic. I called Patricia immediately. Jennifer just called, tried to get me to sign something about the estate, made it sound like reconciliation, but really wanted me to give up my rights. Patricia swore, rare for her. "They're fishing, trying to get you to sign something they can use in court. Barbara Ross voluntarily relinquished her interest in the estate, showing she knew she had no legitimate claim." That kind of thing. It was all fake, the apology, the tears, all of it. Welcome to litigation with desperate people. This is what they do. They'll try anything, every angle, every manipulation. I felt something crack then, not break, crack, like ice over deep water. I'd wanted to believe Jennifer, wanted her tears to be real, wanted the apology to mean something, because despite everything, she was Richard's daughter, Tyler's mother, someone I'd hoped to have a relationship with, but it had all been theater, strategy, one more attempt to get what they wanted. All trust was broken now, completely, irreparably. Patricia had the evidence. Emails, financial records, medical evaluations, witness statements, everything organized in binders. We'd had our final prep meeting that morning, gone through every question I might be asked, every angle they might take. They'll try to rattle. You, Patricia had said, make you doubt yourself, get you confused on the stand. Don't let them. Answer the question asked, nothing more. If you don't know something, say, I don't know. If you don't remember, say, I don't recall. Don't guess. Don't elaborate. What if I get something wrong? You won't, because you're telling the truth. They're the ones who have to keep their stories straight. Liars have to remember what they said. You just have to remember what happened. Now it was the night before the hearing. I couldn't sleep. Sat in the dark kitchen at 11. The house was quiet. Richard was upstairs. My daughters had gone to a hotel nearby. They'd be at the courthouse in the morning. Moral support. I thought about tomorrow, standing in front of Judge Martin, Michael and Jennifer there with their attorney, watching me, waiting for me to mess up, to prove their point, to be the confused, incompetent woman they'd painted in their petition. I thought about the judge. Would she see through this? Would she understand what was really happening? What if she didn't? What if Michael and Jennifer's lies were just credible enough? What if the judge decided to err on the side of caution, order an evaluation, temporary guardianship, just to be safe? That's what they were counting on, not outright winning, just winning enough, creating enough doubt, making the judge think, well, maybe this woman does need oversight, just for a little while, just to be sure. And once they had that temporary guardianship, once they controlled Richard's finances, my access to resources, how long would temporary last? How many months of evaluation? How many doctors would they hire until they found one who'd say what they needed? I sat in the dark kitchen, clock ticking, each second closer to morning. I'd done everything right, gathered evidence, hired a lawyer, got medical evaluations, built my case. But at the end of the day, I was putting my freedom in the hands of a stranger, a judge I'd never met, someone who'd decide, based on a hearing and some documents, whether I was competent to live my own life. The unfairness of it hit me fresh, that I had to prove my sanity, that the burden was on me to demonstrate I wasn't what they claimed, that being normal, functional, capable wasn't enough. I had to document it, evaluate it, present it for judgment. What if fighting back just made me look difficult, defensive, paranoid? What if proving they were lying just made me seem vindictive? What if staying calm and measured made me look cold and calculated? What if showing emotion made me look unstable? Every choice had a trap. Every response could be twisted. Every word could become evidence. How do you defend yourself against accusations designed to make defense look like proof? I sat there, spiraling, until Richard came downstairs, found me in the dark. Hey. He sat beside me, didn't ask if I was okay, knew I wasn't. We sat in silence for a while. Then, whatever happens, tomorrow, he said quietly, you're my wife, my partner. That doesn't change. What if I lose? You won't. But if I do? Then we appeal. We fight. We keep fighting until we win. Because you're right and they're wrong and truth matters. He took my hand. You're not alone in this, Barbara. You've never been alone. I wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that truth was enough, that justice would prevail, that good people won and bad people lost. But I'd lived 68 years. I knew it didn't always work that way. Sometimes bad people won. Sometimes good people got crushed by systems designed to protect them. Sometimes the truth didn't matter as much as who told the better story. and Michael and Jennifer had been crafting their story for 4 months. I had 3 hours tomorrow to dismantle it. The question was, would that be enough? The courthouse was modern, glass and concrete, security screening at the entrance. My daughters walked in with me, Richard beside me, Patricia ahead with her briefcase full of evidence. We were early, 8:30. The hearing was at 9. Michael and Jennifer were already there, sitting on a bench outside the courtroom with their attorney, David Brennan. Mid-50s, expensive suit, calm expression. He'd handled hundreds of these cases probably. This was routine for him. For me, it was my life. Michael looked up when we walked past. His face was carefully neutral. Jennifer looked down at her hands, wouldn't meet my eyes. Patricia led us to a conference room, small, window overlooking the parking lot. "Last-minute review," she said. "When you're on the stand, remember, answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer information. Don't get defensive. If you don't know something, say, 'I don't know.' If you don't remember, say, 'I don't recall.' Don't guess." Okay. Michael and Jennifer are going to testify. They'll describe incidents, memory lapses, confusion, erratic behavior, all fabricated or exaggerated. Don't react. Don't shake your head. Don't sigh. Just sit there. We'll address it in cross-examination. What if the judge believes them? Patricia's expression was firm, confident. She won't. Not after she sees our evidence. Trust the process, Barbara. Trust the truth. At 9 o'clock, we entered the courtroom. Judge Patricia Martin presiding. Late 50s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. She'd reviewed all the filings, both petitions, our counter-petition, the evidence submissions. This wasn't new to her. We took our seats, Barbara and Richard behind Patricia at the petitioner's table, Michael and Jennifer behind their attorney at the respondent's table. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd filed the petition. But in this courtroom, I was the respondent, the one defending myself. Judge Martin looked up from her notes. "This is a competency hearing regarding Barbara Ross. Petitioners claim Mrs. Ross lacks the mental capacity to make sound decisions and request emergency temporary guardianship. Mrs. Ross contests this petition. Let's proceed. Mr. Brennan, your opening statement." David Brennan stood. Smooth, professional. "Your Honor, this case is about 2 concerned adult children who love their father and worry about his well-being. Since marrying Mrs. Ross 6 months ago, Richard Ross has become increasingly isolated from his children. When Michael and Jennifer attempted to express concerns about their father's new wife, they were met with hostility and accusations. But their concerns are legitimate. Mrs. Ross has exhibited signs of memory loss, confusion, and poor judgment. She forgets conversations, makes repetitive purchases, asks the same questions multiple times. These are classic signs of cognitive decline. We're not here to punish Mrs. Ross. We're here to protect her and protect their father from making decisions under her influence while she's impaired." He sat down. I'd just been painted as a sympathetic figure who needed protection. Clever. Patricia stood. No notes. Just steady eye contact with the judge. "Your Honor, this case is about something much simpler. Money. Michael Ross is facing foreclosure. Jennifer Ross Mitchell has $85,000 in medical debt. Their father's estate is worth $1.2 million. Mrs. Ross has a prenuptial agreement ensuring their inheritances, but they want access now. They want control now. When they couldn't convince their father to change his will, when they couldn't convince his attorney to exclude his wife, they manufactured a competency case. We have emails documenting their premeditation, 4 months of planning, discussions of gaslighting tactics, a hired private investigator. This isn't about concern. It's about financial elder abuse." She sat down. The judge's expression hadn't changed, but she'd been taking notes. "Mr. Brennan, call your first witness. The petitioners call Michael Ross." Michael took the stand, sworn in, sat down, looked earnest, concerned. Brennan walked him through it, the incidents, the concerns. Can you describe the first time you noticed something was wrong with your stepmother? It was at our house. She came over. We didn't know she was coming, and she seemed confused. Asked where my mother was. Nancy, my mother, died 4 years ago. Barbara knows that, but she seemed genuinely surprised when I told her Nancy was dead. I wanted to stand up and scream. That never happened. I'd never asked about Nancy, never showed up unannounced. Patricia's hand on my arm. Wait. And there were other incidents? Brennan asked. Many. She'd forget we'd had conversations. Call and ask the same questions she'd asked the day before. My father started making decisions that didn't make sense, changing his will, cutting us out of discussions about his finances. We were worried Barbara was influencing him, manipulating him. Did you try to talk to your father about these concerns? Yes, he got defensive, angry. That wasn't like him. We realized Barbara had turned him against us. Cross-examination. Patricia stood. Mr. Ross, you're 3 months behind on your mortgage, correct? Michael's face tightened. That's not relevant. Your Honor, it's absolutely relevant, Patricia said. It establishes motive. Judge Martin nodded. Answer the question, Mr. Ross. Yes, I've had some financial difficulties. And you've asked your father for loans multiple times in the past year. Yes. Did he give you those loans? No, Barbara convinced him not to. Or, Patricia said, your father made his own decision. Mr. Ross, do you have any medical training? No. Any psychiatric training? No. Have you ever evaluated someone for mental competency? No, but I know my stepmother. You knew your stepmother for 6 months before filing this petition. Is that correct? Yes. In those 6 months, how many times did you have a substantive conversation with her? More than small talk. Real conversation. Michael hesitated. I don't know. A few times. A few times. And based on a few conversations over 6 months, you determined she was mentally incompetent. It wasn't just that. It was the incidents. The alleged incidents, which we'll address later. No further questions. Michael left the stand. His confidence had cracked. Jennifer was next. She looked nervous, kept her hands folded, answered carefully. Brennan walked her through similar testimony, memory issues, confusion, erratic behavior. Her voice was softer than Michael's, more sympathetic. She talked about Tyler, about wanting to make sure her father was safe, about loving Barbara but being worried. It was a good performance, almost believable. Patricia's cross-examination was surgical. Mrs. Ross Mitchell, you have a son with special needs, correct? Yes, Tyler. He requires expensive therapy. Yes. How much do you currently owe in medical bills for Tyler's care? Jennifer's voice was quiet. Around $85,000. That's a significant financial burden. Yes. And your father's estate, if something happened to him, would help with those bills. I suppose, but you called Barbara 3 days before this hearing, correct? Jennifer looked caught. Yes. What did you discuss? I wanted to apologize, to try to work things out. Patricia pulled out a transcript. According to Barbara's notes from that call, you suggested she sign a document relinquishing her estate rights. You told her if she did that, you and Michael would drop the petition. Is that accurate? I was trying to find a solution where Barbara gives up her legal rights and you get what you want. Patricia's voice was measured, sharp. Mrs. Ross Mitchell, do you love your father? Of course. Do you want him to be happy? Yes. Was he happy before he married Barbara? Jennifer hesitated. He was lonely. And after he married Barbara? Silence. Mrs. Ross Mitchell, answer the question. Was your father happy after he married Barbara? He seemed happy, but he seemed happy. Thank you. No further questions. Dr. Morrison was next, the psychiatrist Michael and Jennifer had hired. He'd never met me. Patricia destroyed him in under 10 minutes. Dr. Morrison, have you ever personally evaluated Barbara Ross? No, but based on the reported behaviors, reported by people with financial motivation to exaggerate or fabricate, I rely on the information provided. Without verifying it, without meeting the patient, without conducting any evaluation yourself. In preliminary assessments, it's common to... This isn't a preliminary assessment. This is testimony that could result in a woman losing her freedom, and you're offering an opinion based entirely on hearsay from biased sources. Judge Martin interrupted. Dr. Morrison, I'm giving your testimony minimal weight. The court requires actual evaluation, not secondhand reports. He left the stand looking embarrassed. Then Patricia presented our evidence. She approached the judge's bench, handed up 3 binders, organized, labeled, evidence types 1 through 5. Your Honor, I'd like to present the digital evidence first. These are email communications between Michael Ross and Jennifer Ross Mitchell, obtained legally from Richard Ross's cloud backup account. The emails document 4 months of premeditation. Patricia read them aloud. The courtroom was silent. Michael to Jennifer, we need to document everything. Every time she forgets something, make her doubt herself. Gaslighting isn't illegal if it's for someone's own protection. Jennifer to Michael, what if she's actually fine? Michael's response, then we make it look like she's not. Michael to Jennifer, Morrison agreed to testify. He hasn't met her, but he doesn't need to. Our documentation is enough. Patricia played the recorded phone call, Michael's voice clear. What if Dad's not competent to make those decisions? Tom Chen's response, your father is perfectly competent, Mr. Ross. Michael, not for long. Not for long. The judge's expression changed, hardened. Patricia continued, financial records, Barbara's $400,000 in assets, her property management, her credit score, perfect financial management, then Michael's foreclosure notices, Jennifer's medical debt, the financial motivation laid bare, medical evaluations, Dr. Chen's letter, Dr. Williams' report, both stating clearly Barbara Ross is cognitively intact, mentally competent, fully capable, character witnesses, Margaret's statement, book club letters, professional references, all confirming no confusion, no memory loss, no impairment. It was methodical, thorough, devastating. When Patricia finished, she sat down, the evidence binders stacked on the table. Proof, undeniable. Mrs. Santos, call your next witness. I call Barbara Ross. I stood, walked to the stand, was sworn in, sat down. Patricia's questions were gentle, establishing who I was, my background, my history. Then she asked me to tell my story. I looked at the judge, spoke directly to her, calm, clear. Your Honor, I'm 68 years old. I raised 2 daughters. I was married to my first husband for 42 years. I nursed him through cancer. After he died, I thought I'd spend my remaining years alone. Then I met Richard at a grief support group. We became friends first, then more. He asked me to marry me, and I said yes because I wanted to be happy again. I thought I had that right. I've never been confused. I've never been unstable. What I've been is targeted. My stepchildren have spent the past 4 months trying to make me doubt my own mind. They've twisted normal moments into evidence of illness. They've lied to their father, to doctors, to this court. I understand they're grieving their mother. I understand they're protective of their father. But I'm not their enemy. I'm just a woman who fell in love again and dared to remarry. I don't want their inheritance. I have my own money. I just want to live my life without having to prove I'm sane to do it. Brennan's cross-examination tried to rattle me, asked about the anxiety medication, the grief, whether I'd ever felt confused. I answered each question simply, directly. I took anxiety medication after my husband died. My doctor prescribed it. I took it for 6 months. Then I stopped. That's normal grief treatment. Have you ever felt confused? No? Never? Everyone has moments of distraction, but I've never had memory loss or cognitive impairment. What about the grocery store incident, when you forgot where you parked? That never happened. I wasn't at that store on the date Michael claimed. I have credit card receipts proving I was somewhere else. Patricia objected. Submitted the receipts. Another lie exposed. I left the stand, sat down. My hands were shaking, but I'd done it. Stayed calm. Told the truth. Dr. Chen testified. 15 years as my physician. Normal cognitive function. No signs of impairment. Recent evaluation. 29 out of 30 on cognitive assessment. Excellent, Dr. Williams testified. Forensic psychiatrist. Independent evaluation. 4 hours of testing. Clear conclusion, Barbara Ross is fully competent. Moreover, she shows signs of being a victim of psychological manipulation, not its perpetrator. Richard testified last. Spoke about our relationship, about choosing me, about his children's behavior. I love my children, he said, voice breaking. But they're wrong about Barbara. She's not confused. She's not manipulating me. She makes me happy, and they can't forgive her for that. By 2 o'clock, all testimony was complete. Judge Martin looked exhausted. I've reviewed all the evidence, heard all the testimony. I'm prepared to rule now. My heart pounded. This was it. Judge Martin looked at Michael and Jennifer. This is not a competency hearing. This is financial elder abuse. The evidence is overwhelming. The emails document premeditation. The recorded phone call reveals intent. The financial records establish clear motive. Every alleged incident either didn't happen or has been debunked with evidence. Barbara Ross is competent, fully, completely, unquestionably competent. This petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a protective order. Michael Ross and Jennifer Ross Mitchell are prohibited from filing any further petitions regarding Barbara Ross's competency without leave of court. Any violation will result in sanctions. Finally, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation into possible criminal charges for attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. We'd won. I sat there, heard the words, understood them. But I didn't feel what I'd thought I'd feel. When the judge said, competent, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, relieved, but mostly tired. It shouldn't take a court ruling to prove you're sane. It shouldn't take a judge to confirm you're allowed to live your own life. But I'd take it. Patricia was gathering her files, efficient, professional. She squeezed my shoulder as she passed. You did good. Michael and Jennifer left quickly. Didn't look at us. Brennan was talking to them in the hallway, probably explaining what just happened, how badly they'd lost. Richard took my hand. Didn't say anything, just held on. We sat there for a moment longer, the courtroom emptying, neither of us quite ready to walk out into whatever came next. My daughters appeared. Emily was crying. Sarah was grinning. They hugged me, tight. Mom, you were amazing. It's over, I said, testing the words. It's really over. It's over, Emily confirmed. We walked out of that courthouse into afternoon sun. Patricia stopped on the steps. The DA will review the case. They may or may not file charges. That's out of our hands now. But Barbara, you're free. You won. Free. I'd been free before this started, but I understood what she meant. I'd proven it now, officially, legally, undeniably. Nobody could question my mind again. Nobody could claim I was incompetent. Nobody could try to control my life because a judge had ruled. We won. But as we walked to the car, I wondered, what did we really win? Richard's children were gone. His grandchildren, too. The price of proving I was sane was his family, and I was the one who'd made him pay it. 2 weeks after the hearing, the district attorney's office called. Patricia had warned me this might happen. They'll review the case, decide whether to prosecute. It's out of our hands. The DA's investigator was professional, asked questions, reviewed evidence, 3 hours of interviews. Richard and I both testified about the gaslighting, the manufactured incidents, the emails. A week later, the DA declined to file criminal charges, Insufficient evidence of criminal intent, the letter said. While the behavior was concerning, we cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the petitioners knowingly filed false statements with intent to defraud. Patricia wasn't surprised. Civil cases have a lower burden of proof than criminal. What you won in court is enough. They have a protective order. A judge is ruling on record. If they try anything again, we have ammunition. It wasn't the justice I'd wanted, but it was something. Michael sent a curt email 3 weeks after the hearing. 2 lines. "Dad, I'm sorry things went this way. I hope you understand we were trying to protect you." No apology to me, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just a passive-aggressive implication that Richard needed protection. Richard deleted it without responding. Jennifer was quieter. No calls, no emails. Silence for almost a month. Then, 5 weeks after the hearing, a letter arrived. Handwritten, addressed to Richard. He read it first, then handed it to me. "Dad, I know I went too far. Michael convinced me Barbara was taking advantage of you. I should have trusted your judgment. I should have talked to you instead of filing legal papers. I miss you. I miss the kids seeing you. I don't know how to fix this. I want to try. Jay." Richard looked at me. "What do you think?" I thought about the fake apology phone call, the manipulation, the 4 months of calculated lies. But I also thought about Tyler, the 10-year-old boy who'd hugged me at Christmas, who'd never done anything wrong, who deserved to see his grandfather. "I think," I said carefully, "that trust needs to be rebuilt slowly, and that starts with her apologizing to me, directly, face to face, not through you." Richard nodded, sat down at the kitchen table, wrote his response by hand, let me read it before he sent it. "Jenny, I miss you too, and the grandkids, but trust needs to be rebuilt slowly. What you did to Barbara, what you tried to do, that hurt both of us. When you're ready to apologize to her directly, face to face, let me know. We'll talk then. Dad." He sealed it, mailed it. We haven't heard back. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But the boundary was set, clear, firm. The estate attorney updated our documents. New trust structure, everything in writing. If anything happens to Richard, I have life estate in the house, can live there as long as I want. After I die, the house goes to all 4 children equally. His assets go to his kids. My assets go to mine. Clean, fair, protected. We also made video statements, sitting at the kitchen table, cameras recording, each of us explaining our wishes, our sound minds, our free will. No one manipulating us, no one confused. It felt ridiculous, but also necessary, because now if anyone ever tried this again, tried to claim we weren't competent, weren't making our own decisions, we had proof, dated, recorded, undeniable. Margaret came over the Saturday after the estate planning was finished, brought a casserole, tuna noodle, as always, and sat at the kitchen table with her blunt wisdom. "So, you won." "We won," I agreed. "You look exhausted." "I am." She studied me, those sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You know what this taught you? That family can be awful, that you're stronger than you thought." Margaret leaned forward. 3 months ago, you were trying to be liked, accommodating, making yourself small. Now look at you. You stood in a courtroom and fought for your freedom. That's not weakness, Barbara. That's steel. She was right. I'd changed. The woman who'd opened that petition 8 weeks ago, afraid, uncertain, wanting to keep the peace, she was gone. I'd been forced to become someone who could fight, who could set boundaries, who could say no and mean it. I wasn't sure I liked that woman yet, but I respected her. Margaret squeezed my hand. "You did good, kid." "I'm 68. You're 72. I'm not a kid." She grinned. "You'll always be younger than me. That makes you a kid." Book club Thursday night was different. The women applauded when I walked in. Soft clapping, but it meant everything. Margaret had made my favorite cookies, snickerdoodles. We talked about the book for 20 minutes before anyone mentioned the hearing. Then Carol asked quietly, "How are you really doing?" "I'm rebuilding," I said. And it was true. Not recovered, rebuilding. There's a difference. Patricia Santos called 4 weeks after the hearing, professional check-in, but also something else. "Barbara, I wanted to thank you for trusting me with your case, for fighting when it would have been easier to settle. You made it possible." "No, you made it possible. I just provided the legal framework." She paused. "My grandmother went through something similar. Her son tried to have her declared incompetent. She fought, she won, but it broke her. She never really recovered from the betrayal." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It taught me what I wanted to do with my career, help people like her, like you." Patricia's voice was warm, professional but personal. "You're one of the reasons I do this work. Watching you stand up in that courtroom, watching you refuse to be diminished. That's why I became a lawyer." "Thank you, Patricia, for everything. Stay strong, and call me if you need anything, anytime." We'd become more than attorney and client, not quite friends, the professional boundary was still there, but allies, battle partners. She'd seen me at my most vulnerable and helped me find my strength. That mattered. Emily called from Chicago every Sunday. Our relationship had shifted. She'd always been my daughter. I'd always been her mother. But now there was something else. Respect. Adult respect. "Mom, I have to say, watching you in that courtroom, I've never been more proud. You were incredible." I was terrified. "You were terrified and you did it anyway. That's courage." She paused. "I used to worry about you. After Dad died, whether you'd be okay, whether you were strong enough on your own. And now I know you're the strongest person I know. You don't need protecting, Mom. You never did." Hearing that from my daughter, my practical, brilliant, sometimes overprotective daughter, meant everything. She'd witnessed my transformation, from the widow trying to rebuild her life to the woman who'd fought for her freedom. She'd seen me become myself. We planted flowers that Saturday, Richard and I working in the garden together. Impatience, bright colors, spring planting. The soil was rich, dark. I dug the holes. Richard placed each plant carefully. We worked in rhythm, comfortable silence, partnership. "Do you regret it?" he asked. Quiet. Marrying me, all this chaos. I looked at him. This man I'd chosen, this complicated, loving, damaged by his children man. "Never," I said. "Not for 1 second." "The flowers will bloom in a few weeks." "I know." We kept planting, building something, growing something, moving forward. 6 weeks after the hearing, I was invited to speak at the senior center. Elder law attorney there, not Patricia, someone else, was hosting a workshop on protecting yourself from financial exploitation. "We'd love to have you share your story," she said. "If you're comfortable. So many people go through this and don't fight back. Hearing from someone who did, it could help." I said yes. 20 people in the room, mostly women, mostly over 65. Some with concerned adult children, some recently remarried, some just scared it could happen to them. I told my story, not all of it. The outline. Remarried at 68. Stepchildren filed competency petition. 4 months of gaslighting and manipulation. Court hearing. Victory. "What I learned," I said at the end, "is that protecting yourself isn't selfish. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. Fighting for your freedom isn't being difficult. It's being human. And if someone tries to take that from you for any reason, you fight back, even when you're scared, especially when you're scared." A woman in the back raised her hand, 70-ish, nervous. "What if it's your own children? How do you fight your own children?" I thought about that, about Richard's pain, about Tyler and Emma, grandchildren he might never see again, about the cost of winning. "You fight," I said quietly, "because if you don't, you lose yourself. And losing yourself is worse than losing anything else, even family." The room was silent. Then the woman nodded. Thank you. I drove home, feeling lighter, not happy, not healed, but purposeful. Like maybe this nightmare could mean something, could help someone else, could prevent another woman from going through what I'd gone through. That night, Richard and I sat on the back porch, evening air cooling, garden visible from where we sat. The impatiens we'd planted were already showing growth, small but alive. I talked to Jennifer, Richard said. I looked at him. She called this afternoon, asked if we could meet. Just her, not Michael. She wants to apologize. To you, in person. What did you say? That I'd ask you. That it's your decision. I thought about it. Jennifer, the woman who'd helped file papers to have me declared incompetent, who'd called with fake apologies and manipulation, who'd testified in court about incidents that never happened, but also the woman who'd been desperate, drowning in medical debt, manipulated by her brother, grieving her mother, scared for her child. She'd done terrible things, but she wasn't only a terrible person. I'll meet with her, I said, but not alone. You'll be there, and I want an actual apology. Not an explanation, not an excuse. An apology. Richard nodded. I'll tell her. I don't know if Jennifer will actually apologize. I don't know if we'll ever have a real relationship. I don't know if Richard will ever see his grandchildren regularly again. I don't know a lot of things, but I know this. I'm standing. I'm married to a man I love. I'm independent. I have my freedom, my autonomy, my life. And nobody gets to tell me I'm not competent to live it. That's enough. For now, that's enough. 9 months after the hearing, life looks almost normal. Richard and I have dinner together every night. We still do the crossword over morning coffee. I volunteer at the library Tuesday mornings. Book club Thursday nights. The garden needs constant work. Roses, tomatoes, impatiens we planted in spring. We're planning a trip to Arizona in February. Canyon views, warm sun, just the two of us. Almost normal, but not quite. I still check the mailbox carefully, looking for legal papers that aren't coming. I still tense when the phone rings with an unknown number. Legal papers leave a mark, even when you win. Michael hasn't contacted Richard since that curt email 9 months ago. No birthday calls, no holidays, nothing. Richard grieves that, quietly. I see it in his face sometimes. The loss. Jennifer is different. She came to the house 3 months after the hearing, apologized. To me, directly. It wasn't easy for her. She cried. Admitted Michael had manipulated her, that she'd been desperate and scared and wrong. I didn't forgive her immediately, but I listened. Now she calls once a month. Brief conversations. Careful. She brings Tyler and Emma to see Richard every few weeks. Supervised visits at a park. I don't join them, not yet. Maybe someday. Richard asked me once if I resented the distance, the cautiousness, the slow rebuilding. No, I said. Trust is earned. She broke it. If she wants it back, she has to build it, slowly, on my terms. He nodded, squeezed my hand. You've gotten fierce. I've gotten honest. We keep our finances separate. My $400,000, his estate, completely divided. The prenup is ironclad now, updated, reinforced. If anything happens to him, I have the house for life. After I die, it goes to his kids. His money goes to his children, mine to my daughters, clean, protected, no ambiguity. It's not romantic, but it's safe. And safety matters now more than romance. We're happy. Quietly happy. Not the honeymoon bliss of 6 months ago. Something steadier, harder won, real. I've spoken at 6 senior centers in the past 9 months. Elder law workshops, financial protection seminars. Every time I tell my story. Not for sympathy, for warning. If someone tries to take your autonomy, I say at the end of every talk, fight back, even when it's family, especially when it's family, because nobody gets to decide you're incompetent to live your own life. The rooms are always full, mostly women, mostly over 65, many remarried, many with concerned or greedy adult children. They take notes, ask questions, some cry. One woman approached me after a talk last month, 72, recently widowed. Her stepson was pressuring her to sell her house and move in with him. "I thought I was being difficult," she said. "Ungrateful. But hearing your story, I realize I'm allowed to say no." "You're allowed to say no," I confirmed. "You're allowed to live your own life. That's not selfish. That's survival." She hugged me, thanked me, left with her head higher. That's why I do this. Not because I enjoy reliving the nightmare, but because if my story helps one person, just one, set a boundary, fight back, protect themselves, then maybe it meant something. Patricia refers people to me sometimes, clients going through similar cases. I don't give legal advice. I just listen, share my experience, let them know they're not alone, that fighting is possible, that winning is possible. Margaret still brings casseroles every week. We do book club Thursdays. She's started telling people I'm hero friend who stood up to her evil stepkids. I tell her that's not accurate. She tells me to shut up and accept the compliment. My daughters call regularly. Sarah every Wednesday. Emily every Sunday. They're proud of me. I can hear it in their voices. Their mother, the woman they'd worried about after Dad died, turned out to be stronger than any of us knew. If you're listening to this and recognizing pieces of your own story, if someone is questioning your judgment, manufacturing evidence, making you doubt yourself, please hear me. You're not crazy. You're being manipulated, and you deserve to fight back. Document everything, save emails, record conversations where legal, get medical evaluations, hire a lawyer who specializes in elder law, build your evidence, protect yourself. It's not paranoid, it's survival. Some people will say you're being difficult, ungrateful, paranoid. Let them. Your freedom is worth more than their approval. I wish I could tell you that fighting doesn't cost anything, but it does. Richard lost his relationship with Michael, maybe permanently. Jennifer is rebuilding slowly, but the trust is gone. His grandchildren don't know him the way they should. That hurts, for both of us. But the alternative was worse. The alternative was losing myself, my autonomy, my right to make my own decisions, my freedom. And I wasn't willing to pay that price. Neither should you. Some days I still can't believe it happened, that I had to stand in a courtroom and prove I was sane, that Richard's children tried to take my freedom. But I'm here. I'm standing. I'm married to a man I love. I'm independent. And nobody gets to tell me otherwise. Ever again. Tonight, Richard and I are going to that Italian restaurant, the one we went to after our courthouse wedding. Full circle. 9 months of hell. But we're still here. Still married. Still choosing each other. We're getting ready now. I'm putting on the blue dress, the same one I wore at the courthouse. Richard's wearing his good suit. We locked the door behind us. I didn't look back at the house. I used to do that. Look back, check, worry. But tonight I looked forward, at Richard, at the car, at tomorrow. That's where I live now, forward.